So this is being offered as we are 1 week away from our third main stage concert of our season. This place, our home, that is a short phrase that comes from a piece that both opens and closes this concert. As When I became artistic director of Choral Arts Northwest 4 years ago, I asked our members what were some of the top issues, passions, musical loves, and I got so much wonderful information back. One thing that came back over and over, and it comes back each year as being a theme, and I know that we're not alone in this in Seattle, is issue of affordable housing. And we decided to lean into that for this program in a way that is an invitation for all of us to lean into what just feels like a common human desire, not just today, but through all ages, this feeling of wanting to belong, wanting to have a place that is one of safety and security, whether we're young or old, where we can thrive, where we can learn and laugh and play, where we can love, where we can cook and savor all the things. And so this program, both across history and different traditions and different compositional voices and poetic voices, leans into that. So um, I am grateful to have joining us this evening our incredible composers, Tim Takach, who was recently here in Seattle for Seattle Sings this last fall, this last autumn, and Jocelyn Hagen, composers. We're so lucky to have you both with us. And um, we share copiously your bios. I will say, I have loved your music for years before I ever got to know either of you in person. And we're on some early consortiums, um, uh, uh, Moments in Time, or Moments in Film, Tim's trio of pieces, and Jocelyn Hagen, your incredible multimedia symphony, Notebooks of Leonardo da Vinci, and those are just a snapshot. I've just been a fan, and I know I'm not alone in that. So we're eager to get to know you this evening. We're going to talk about your music, but since our theme um, is home, maybe you could tell us. And I think you mentioned as folks were gathering on, where are you zooming in from this evening? And I'm going to follow that up with this feeling of home. And maybe as you think back, either childhood or today, you know, what are some things that come to mind as you think about what's been an important memory or place or people that made you feel home at some point in your life?
Well, we're zooming in from Minnesota. We used to live in Minneapolis, and then we're married to each other. By the way, I don't know if that's common knowledge or if that's a drop on the mic moment. But we used to live in Minneapolis, and then moved out to the country of Minnesota 8 years ago. So we're about an hour out of the metropolitan area. So home has changed for us fairly recently, but we both travel a lot for work, and so tonight actually is one of our first nights back together at home after about almost 2 weeks apart. So Jocelyn was in Los Angeles and Salt Lake City, and then Los Angeles, and then San Jose, and then came home. And in the meantime, I was out in Massachusetts and Rhode Island for some premieres and concerts of my works, and then came back. So we're here. Our cats are around. You'll probably see one or two of them. Our youngest is downstairs playing Minecraft, and our oldest is out snowboarding with his friends. So I think home for me has changed over time. You asked about. I'll let you speak in a little bit. She's also nursing a little bit of a sore throat, so uh, for me, it's the place that I'm most comfortable and feel like I can be unguarded and most myself. But it's also the people, and it's also being around my family. And I think that has changed with age, because when I think about my childhood, it feels like the place are the things that come back to me. It was my house, my room, my yard, my neighborhood, like all the places that I was, or that specific spot. But yeah, it's amazing. When I remember when we moved out of our Minneapolis house, we've been there for about 14 years, and I stood there in the front entryway and looked at all these empty rooms and was just in tears, because we had our kids there. We had adopted cats and lost cats there, and we had neighbors come and go, and like so much life happened in that specific space that we were saying goodbye to.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I think a lot about making home a really special place, especially as our kids are getting older. So our oldest is 17 years old, so he's a junior. We have him for one more year. And I just find myself thinking about, that this is the home that he's going to remember,
Mm-hmm.
and how I just want to make it a really special place so that he keeps wanting to come back and visit us, so that it's like that it has all these happy memories, and that he will always feel
Like he
home, like
belongs
he
here.
belongs
Yeah.
here, even when he's living somewhere else eventually. So I think a lot about that, and I think there's also something special about our home because we work here. So this is
Mm-hmm.
also where the music is born, right? Where the ideas come, and this is the piano, I sit at, and that's the piano that I grew up with at my mom and dad's house. So, it just, and that is very much home to me. I've always felt like the piano, it also feels like home. And so,
Sitting
and
at the bench.
sitting at the piano bench, that is my home. And, yeah, and I think that makes it beautifully into the piece we make at home because it has such a big piano part, it's very Jocelyn, to just like have a big shiny piano part for the pianist, because that was my role for so many years as a collaborative pianist.
My my parents recently moved just to be closer to the Twin Cities, so they're now in Mendota Heights, and um, the plans early on were to sell the spinet Wurlitzer piano that I did all my lessons on. And when I walked downstairs and saw the piano, I squealed. I was just, I didn't know how much, because we spent all that time and it wasn't just by ourselves. It was, singing together as a family, whether it was the holiday time or playing for each other. So, that so resonates. Well, thank you, after being apart for a while, for spending your date night with the Choral Arts Northwest and beyond. For those who are maybe not as ensconced in the industry side or like the choral professional world, this is a busy time for composers, absolutely, because the one of these national associations, the American Choral Directors Association, is hosting four regional conferences in this span, and so I imagine that some of those travels were associated with that. I know some of our singers were attending the one here in Tacoma just a little bit. So maybe just to lean into that spirit of, what you both alluded to, and Tim, I think you used the word kind of unguarded. That just like resonates so much with how I feel like when we as singers feel like we can really, open up and be vulnerable. It is connected with that feeling of being at home there.
Well, I think
And
that
this,
not
go
to
ahead.
interrupt you, but I think that for a lot of folks, being in a choir also feels like a home. Like the comfort of grabbing your folder and going to your spot and knowing exactly who's going to be on either side of you, and feeling like you're all unified in one emotional and artistic purpose and focus. Like there's a magic there that we don't talk about a lot, but we all understand what it is to be a part of that. And I think that it's we get to leave things at the door that we would most likely take into any other place that we would go. But there's something safe about that rehearsal space, ideally, that you can go in and just give, and everybody's giving the same thing, and that's a special thing too.
It absolutely is, and I know that I see my singers putting their hearts and their love out like that. Absolutely. As we rehearsed the model for Choral Arts Northwest is we rehearse for one day. We do a morning and an afternoon rehearsal and a potluck in the middle, and that's usually 4 to 6 weeks in advance. So like we call it our kickstart, and and so we did this project actually quite early in the process in January, and it's in the context of what was going on and continuing to go on, the lesser uh, extent covered by media and such in Minneapolis, with folks literally pulled from homes and seeing neighbors step up and being with and trying to care for one another. I think it just felt like a really vulnerable time. And I mentioned to Tim and Jocelyn, I'll mention again, um, I've never led a rehearsal in which there have been so many just tears that needed to be let go. Like that, just we felt in that space that we could name these things, and also the poetry and the music just touches so deeply when we're talking about home. And whether it's feeling like we belong, or also there's music on our program that speaks about longing for home. For those who will be attending, um, there's an opening set of three pieces of Brahms on die Heimat, to homeland, when he composed when he was, I think, 17 or in his late teens, far away from his home for a while, for about 4 months. And then we also sing Persephone Powell's "Sometimes I Feel Like a Motherless Child," far away from home. There's also this, we know when we're not at home and we don't feel like we're there. And then we also have your pieces that speak beautifully about some different aspects. So I want to dive in a little bit to Tim, your multi-movement composition. That's one of our centerpieces of this program. It's called At Home, and it is a five-movement work for choir and uniquely flute and clarinet. And it features the poetry in four movements of Wendell Berry, and in the centerpiece, please correct my pronunciation if it's incorrect, of Julia Klatt Singer. I have adored her poetry and I'm eager to get to know her a bunch about that. But before we do that, Tim, there's a lovely inscription here commissioned by Laurie Jacopi,
Kobe, yeah.
in honor of Cotty Lowry's 70th birthday. There's clearly a story behind At Home. Can you tell us a little bit about this?
Of course. So this was a birthday present for her husband, Cotty, and they are choral fans, and we got to know them through concerts and the arts scene here in Minnesota. And so they had heard a Christmas piece that I had written, and they heard that in concert and enjoyed it. And then in secret from him, she wanted to commission this piece for the group to perform for him. So we talked about themes, and he is. They've had a couple different homes as they've come together. They married later in life, and so she had her place, he had his. They had a place up north. Like there were just many homes between them. He's also a real estate agent, and so the idea of home physically means a lot to him. That's been his life work, and so we crafted the piece based around that. And I found all these Wendell Berry poems that talked about home, but we also wanted a original commissioned poem that could be about like the actual dwelling, even more about the actual dwelling and the house itself. And we had a poet picked out and had asked them to write it, and then really late in the timeline, they delivered something that didn't feel like they understood the assignment. Like it didn't feel like it fit with the idea of home at all, and so we had to set that aside. And then I said, my emergency SOS call has to be to Julia because I trust her. I know her. She works fast. She works beautifully. And I think she'll come up with something great. And so then she wrote that third movement, the poem for the third movement, fairly late in the process. But I think it's just gorgeous. So that's the one that breaks the tradition of Wendell Berry poems, but is the most about Cotty and about his work.
So maybe let's hold that center movement aside for just a moment. Why? So I'm a fan of Wendell Berry, full disclosure. Um, why were his poems that really drew you in as this kind of project came about?
I think that I mean, there's so much nature in his writing, and I love that, and I feel like the physical context of a home is the space around it. I really do believe that, and I just liked the ideas, the philosophical ideas he had. That the fourth movement is talking about how the way, what is it, the road is not the, let me look it up here, because I'm gonna botch it. It's a
There is a
short text.
day, there is a day
Oh,
when the road neither comes nor goes, and the way is not a way, but a place.
Yes. So the idea that we're constantly moving and in motion, and yet the idea of being in motion is where we are. Like we can be at home moving forward or moving backward, and that is just who we are. We're always on that journey. So like there's a mental sense of home there as well. The first one resonated because it's like an anti love story home. Like, this is where I feel most comfortable. Don't come, don't show up here. This is my space. You have one as well. And I just love that there's so much truth in that. You know, as we find our places and our comfort levels in different contexts. Sometimes it's just we're comfortable being by ourselves and being in that solitude. So there's an idea of home there that resonates as well. And that second poem of the second movement, talking about building a new roof, and so that the boundary between our dwelling place and the universe just being drawn by the roof over our head. And so in the process of taking off the old roof and putting on the new, for a moment we are connected with the sky and the universe. There's nothing between us. And I love that idea too. So there's so many different ways that he talks about home in these poems, that it just felt like a really natural fit.
Yeah. Yeah, that first poem, both there's two stanzas, and both of them end with the text, I am at home, don't come with me. You stay home too. And for me, the first time I read that, I said, those are partners that also really see each other. Like, I need to be at my home and you need to be at home. And that sometimes maybe those homes are going to be
Yes.
physically together and sometimes going to be separate. I want to ask Philip too, because it's just so beautiful to cue up the opening of this. There's just this beautiful interplay between the flute and the clarinet, and then the choir comes in. So let's just listen to a little bit, and then I've got a question about kind of those instruments, if you would,
Mhm.
Philip.
Okay, queuing it up now. Do let me know if the audio is even remotely working.
And let's pause it there, Philip. Boy, Tim, that just pulls the heartstrings, right away. And yeah, I'd love if you'd share maybe a little bit about um, this decision of flute and clarinet. Like, sometimes we know there are decisions that say, well, the program has those two instruments, so that's what's available. Or sometimes there's another idea behind. I'm curious where that came from.
Yeah, it was a couple different things at the same time. When we sat down and had a meeting about this piece and talked about what it could be and what we wanted it to be, I liked the idea of representing this couple, these two people through instruments that could accompany the choir. And sometimes that's an artistic decision, and sometimes I feel like it's something that's been on our mind for a while that we want to try. And I don't have a lot of pieces that use obligato instruments. It's usually just choir or choir and piano or something a little bit more standard. And I just thought that feels like a great way to explore new musical territory for me. It feels really thematic because it's two instruments representing two different people. I like that they were high, that they could cut through the choir and balance really easily. No, depending on where the choir was, but like they would be heard. So it popped in my head kind of right away when we were talking about it, and I thought maybe we could do flute and clarinet, and everybody said, yeah, that'd be fine. So they weren't already on the program, but it made sense to me, and I also liked those woodwind sounds feel very natural and timeless to me as well. So there's a really deep sense of emotion and personality in both those two instruments that I think work well together.
They they feel so intimate with each other, and they
Mhm.
also feel expansive at times when combined with the choir. And there's elements that invoked the first time I heard it, which I don't remember when it was, Tim, maybe a year ago, and maybe longer than that. But there was an aspect of like, oh, a Copeland connection, or it just had an opening, a heart opening kind of feeling that was also immediate and close. And the choir combination without having an instrumental bottom, if you will, like that just like time kind of stops a little bit when we hear, treble, instrumentation and such. It's beautiful, and you use them in really different ways
Mm.
throughout. Like in the third movement, which is called Good Bones,
Mhm.
it's a really different character altogether. And this is the poem that as you mentioned, Julia has composed. So inquiring minds and artistic directors want to know
Mhm.
about this person that I see you both collaborating with a lot. Like, who is she? Yeah.
Yeah, she's a poet here in Minneapolis, and we first got to know her. We won a competition.
You won the
Yeah,
competition.
so I won a competition with her. She and I won the competition for the Minnesota Boy Choir here in town, and they were commissioning a thing, and so I applied as a composer and she applied as a poet, and they picked us both and then smushed us together and said, you two are going to make four pieces for us. And it was a neat assignment. It was going into the Children's Hospital of Minnesota and talking with the patients there and turning their words and stories into poems and then setting those to music for the boy choir to sing. So it was children's ideas and voices being performed by children. And so I remember our first meeting. I was nervous because up until that point, I'd only ever set poetry that I had found and already fell in love with. So this was new territory for me to not only be match made with a poet, but also not know what they were going to make for me. And so I remember coming to the meeting and I had printed out a bunch of texts that I had set already that I really liked. And like as a way of saying, well, this is what I like to do. And so, but she beat me to it. And so we were at the table together and she gave me a booklet of her poetry. She's like, I thought I'd bring this just so you know who I am and what I do. And sitting right there, I flipped through it and just scanning the poems, I thought, oh, this is going to work out really well. Just because her language and the ease of it and the comprehension and the connection between real life things that you could see and touch, but then the ideas behind them. And it also feels very personal. Like there's so many levels to her work. And I just thought, oh, this is going to be great. And so we wrote those four songs together. And then I grabbed every book of poetry that she had out and brought those to the house and started working my way through my favorites. And Jocelyn got on board
Yeah.
shortly thereafter, I think. Do you remember what the first one you set was?
Oh, the first one? I'm not sure. I have a song cycle for soprano and piano. That might have been one of the first things. Yeah, it was all kind of romantic poetry called Kiss.
And I
Lovely.
mean, she grew up here. She grew up singing in church choir, Lutheran, just like all the Minnesota things combined. And it just makes great poetry from her. So we love her.
I would not have guessed that though from her poetry.
Oh.
I don't get strongly like, oh, this is someone who's also Lutheran. I don't that doesn't read also like, and maybe it's the text that you've chosen.
Doesn't say hot
When
dish
you
in it.
both, what's that?
It doesn't say hot dish in it.
It doesn't it doesn't say hot dish with cream of mushroom soup on the base with tater tots on the top. That's right. At least that was my Grandma Shepherd's version. Anyways, so is it more frequent that you commission Julia to write poetry for works that you have? Is it that you are perusing through her works, or is it a combination of the music you set?
You know, what's really wonderful is that sometimes she'll just email us poems. So like we wake up in the morning and go to our email and there's a poem in our inbox. It's amazing. There have been other times when I've sent her an idea or like a phrase. Like I'm thinking about this idea. Want to run with it and see what happens? Yeah.
And later that day, usually, she sends us something.
and and I think that there's something to that. The fact that it's very instinctual, but she also what she does as her day job is she helps young people write poetry. And when I say young people, I mean like 3 to 5 years old.
Oh wow.
So there's this immediacy in the words that she chooses that I think lends itself really well to be sung, and that's just the world that she's in. Yeah,
And she's a yes
Wow.
and kind of person.
yeah.
So many times I'll call her with an idea or a commission idea or something I'm looking for, and she'll be out walking her dog, so you can kind of hear her breath, like she's breathing, and you can hear the chain rattling. She's like, "Yeah, yeah, okay, yeah, oh yeah, uh-huh." Just like agreeing and agreeing with everything, and just absorbing it so that she can process it and then turn it around. And there's a lot of knowing her work now. There's a lot of thumbprints in her work. There's a lot of birds that show up in her work, and there's a lot of again, there's a lot of nature.
Yes.
You know, a lot of trees. But it's just a delight to work with her. And we know now, like if we're looking for something specific, we can say, "Oh, that's a great Julia idea." Like she would do that really well, and she would be. I know what I'd get from her if I gave her this prompt.
So we're going to get to We Make It Home, Jocelyn, in which you've also set Julia's poetry. Before we leave At Home, this poem that you set, Tim, it's called Good Bones. And for our audience, so I know some folks have been getting familiar with it. I mean, it is humorous. It is very real. Like, it is very Minnesota. The winter pipes are about to burst, and we've been there, in the Northwest as well. And then there's this line that, each wall tells a story, each floor sings the mockingbird song. Light the candles, dim the lights. We'll change the bulb another day. It's also very like sensual and close. But before we ever hear a word of it, you have this lovely introduction that just tells you kind of a kitschy kind of character. So maybe Philip could play just a little bit of Good Bones. And this is the Singers, fabulous group based in Minnesota. we'll stop right there. Just great character and all the
Mhm.
slides of the clarinet and there's humor and musicians humor inside it too. There's a quote. Should I not give it away, Tim?
You can give it away if you want.
I mean, when we're talking about the piano roll down the hallway corner, you hear, and the sixth that we hear it, the entertainer appearing in there. It's just, yeah, it's fabulous. And
And that was
so,
it. That was so. Cotty had taken piano lessons as an adult, and "The Entertainer" was one of the songs he had learned and practiced. So that's how that made it in, and it just fit that style really well too. So it was an easy, easy thing to put in there. But I love in this poem the balance between talking about this old house that you fall in love with, but also the old person that you fall in love with. You always like the old ones best for their charm, their good bones, and then at the end, she says, "You are wise. You appreciate what once was straight, now softly curves, still standing, good bones." And so I love that it's about the house, but it's also about the people.
yeah. And that, we centerpiece then turns to the fourth movement, which is this lovely canon, this round that the choir sings, and the text that you've already read of the Wendell Berry. And then I just love how the work ends, not with four-part, or eight-part tall Minnesota chord kind of, but a really tender two-part duet and called together on the porch. And we won't give the story away too much, but it's just like that. It captures also maybe when the house becomes a little quieter, when there's just two plates, that are at the setting at this time. And I think this was the point in the rehearsal where it was just, whether, our singers are partnered or not, it just like that, like feeling of closeness and companionship with friends, with family, it just resonates so deeply.
Yeah,
So
I'm glad we're not talking about it because I couldn't make it. I couldn't make it if we were talking about that
I think
movement.
I think we'll leave it there. I do, as a side note, I do talk about or I think about myself and talk some with some choirs. Like it's not just the musical rehearsal work that we need to do in a rehearsal to get in the notes and the rhythms and the phrasing and the apex of the that moment, but it's also with this program it feels a lot like the emotional work because we do want our audiences to feel fully this music, and we're going to care deeply about it, and sometimes that does lead us to be choked up at a moment. Sometimes we're surprised in a performance, but also that's the work that we do as choral artists. It's different than playing the piano. It's not super distant, but it's a different thing when it's our human voice. So one of the little segue, one of the human voices that we've loved in choral arts for several years has been your music, Jocelyn. And before we talk about We Make It Home, I just want to take a little trip down memory lane with our audience to one of our solstice concerts in December 2022. We were singing both Seattle and over in the Bellevue side, and we sang your work called Mother's Song. And I just want to invite, after I read this beautiful poem, for Phil to just share a little bit of us singing this. This is Mother's Song, an anonymous Japanese poem translated by Willis Barnstone. If snow falls on the far field where travelers spend the night, I ask you, cranes, to warm my child in your wings.
Such a great text. Yeah.
Philip, do you want to play a little bit of that there? We'll just pause it right there. Thanks, Philip. Oh my gosh, it's and the way you set the poem, Jocelyn, when finally the wings provide that warmth. I mean, it just unfolds, and you can, I don't know, I can feel the wings kind of wrapping around the audience and all of us as we have that. It just, I fell in love hearing that work. I don't know if you want to say anything about that work. That's not the subject of tonight, but it's just like so gorgeous.
Thank you. Well, I don't know if you know that I wrote it during the pandemic.
I did
So
not know that.
yeah, it was one of those weird silver linings that was a project that only happened because it was the pandemic. Voce reached out and wanted a couple new pieces for their Live from London Christmas. And I found this poem and I loved it. And I was thinking about just how we're taking care of each other in this moment, right? And how and because of restrictions on travel, like all the things, we often weren't with the people that we loved, right? And so we often had to trust others to take care of the people that we loved too, And so that was really what was in my brain writing that little piece. So
Wow, that makes it even richer and more connected. Yeah, that we can't always be with those loved ones. And that is not just limited to the pandemic, right? I mean, we are
yeah.
people spread across many miles sometimes. And what a gift, what a gift. So, Jocelyn, on this program, we feature your epic isn't the right word, so I've been using expansive setting that so I should say oftentimes in the choral world, especially, contemporary compositions, we live in the world of the 2.5 to 4 minute like octavo. And yet there's been increasingly like these, compositions, and you both, contribute many of these that kind of take us on a little bit longer journey without being, a full, concert like thing. And this is one of those pieces. And I have to say, from a conductor's perspective, we think of like the real estate that we have in a concert. Like, and when we say, yeah, we're going to do this 6 minute work, like we're saying this has something really meaningful to say. It's going to take us on a journey that's going to just be so right for the program. And this hits the mark. I would love if you would just be open to sharing a little bit about this lovely composition that is pretty new, I think,
Yeah,
perhaps.
like
Yeah.
it came out last year. I was gonna say I can't say for sure whether this is a West Coast premiere because it's on JW Pepper, and so I don't know who buys it then. Um, but I have only heard of a handful of performances of this one, so you're among the first to perform it. Besides so it was commissioned by Alicia Walker. I don't know if you know her from University of South Carolina. She's wonderful, and she said, "Jocelyn, write me a great piano part." I was like, "Fun, great." But the other thing that I remember we talked about so much was so, and this is one of those cool things with Julia too, where she sent me this poem that I think was about this big, and I said, "Oh, this is great." And then Alicia and I had a conversation, and it was right around the time when all the floods were happening in South
Ah,
Carolina. Do you remember that? It was recent.
yes. Yep.
And they were kind of going through it while I was writing the piece. And so she said, "Is there any way that you could fold some of that into it?" And I said, "You know what? I've got the right poet for that." So I went to Julia and I said, "Can you make this poem a little bit bigger and maybe add in something about what it's like when you lose your home?" And because that's that whole section, that softer section, it's like on page 12. Yeah, even after the roof is gone, the barn on its knees, the floodwater rising, the chainsaws, the no longer trees, our memories are a home. And just how special it is to have a piece of music that touches on that idea that that home that it can all be wiped away in a quick moment and take you away from what you love and what you have always thought of, and that you have to find a home in other ways somewhere else, or but yeah, but finding the comfort in the memories. I thought that was also a
Yeah.
great part of the text that she wrote.
And I think this is one of the things that really drew me into it.
Mm.
Um, this composition. It's, I mean, the title, We Make It Home, that it's choice, it's action. I have a dear friend who says love is kindness and action. I mean, it's the lived experience that we have. And for our audience that will experience it and for our singers, I mean, the beginning and of the piece is active and it is moving and it's this triplet rhythm that for me, triplets just, there's just like a roundness to it and there's an openness to it. And then time kind of stops at the text that you just read, Jocelyn. And I when there were some major floods. You may, I'm guessing, heard about it here in the Northwest, where one of those atmospheric streams just took out bridges and transportation, and really a tough time. And I remember when we were rehearsing our October project, we had singers who could not join us because the roads were literally washed out to getting to us, and they were not teaching. They had more free time on their hands, but because no one could get to the actual schools. And so that text, it's striking that it came from South Carolina's experience, and in the world that we live in, I think is going to, that continues to speak in a very literal, but also a broader way too. And there's both comfort, and also like the kind of bittersweet part of that too, that it is memories. So, um, yeah, your piano part in this is fabulous. I'm a pianist as well, and so if it's not a recording, when I'm experiencing something for the first time, I'm singing, I'm playing, I'm doing the things, and it is a trip. But it is also in this very interesting meter that is very
Yep.
Jocelyn Hagen, I feel like. As musicians, those on the call, we're used to things, being like 1, 2, 1, 2, or 1, 2, 3, feeling a waltz, or and this one is decidedly none of those because it is meters at 5 and 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But the emphasis are all jumping all around. I love it. As a conductor, you're making me think and just be in the music a whole bunch. So, anyways, I don't know if you want to say anything about that, but it just like pulls me in right away.
Oh, good, because I think there are quite a few conductors who would be scared of it.
And run away.
Run away.
Well, there's also that.
Yeah. I don't know, but I do this a lot. Like part of me thinks like I challenge myself. It's like, how can I do this and make it feel natural? Or, yeah, just something, because I really love that idea of the dropped beat. It's really fun just moving that around. And yeah, to make it work with the text in a really natural way is a good challenge. But yeah,
It,
I have
it
fun with it.
I find in the rehearsal process of this or getting to know a score, like there's always the period of it not quite feeling um, easy and ingrained inside. And then suddenly there's a moment where it starts to click. We
Mhm.
all understand the destination of it, and we kind of we make friends with that dropped beat
Mhm.
in a really wonderful way. Maybe Philip, you could just play just a little bit of this beginning until we get to kind of the word home, just to get a little sense of this. And there's a moment also where we're going to hear this text repeated over and over, only using three pitches, but like 7 syllables. Hope in what I'm seeing is hope in what. I mean, it is just so it's so groovy, and also you almost miss it if you're not like in it. Go for it, Philip.
All right. In the website, I'm going to share the text is a little bit small, so I've actually printed the text of the poem in the chat if you all want to check that out while you're listening.
Super, Philip. Thanks so much for that. Okay, let's pause it there. I just, when we get to that point where the piano is just in that, um, it's not so extroverted in its like groove or its feeling, but the joy is deep. I mean, it's just, and it is fun. It is just fun to play. I mean, we're so lucky you write in such a way, Jocelyn. It's just a hoot for all of us who get to play it. So, um, yeah. Um, I have one question that maybe you're going to say, Tim, you got to keep thinking about that. The audience has to, keep thinking about it. But Tim, myself, I'm talking to myself. Sorry, Tim. Um, uh,
That wasn't clear.
I
That was
can also
funny.
keep thinking about whatever you
sorry,
need me to
keep
think
thinking
about.
about it. Geez. What, so the end text is it's so I literally wrote the word special in my score because kind of pauses at the end after this journey, wherever we are going, that we make it home. And then the piano comes back in with that motive we just heard. Ba, 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 da, 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 da. But then there's not a resolution. There's not a retard. It just
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
what's that about? Home is home is home is a continuing. It's a choice. It's also we don't know what exactly tomorrow will
We
bring.
ran out
That
of
we make
time.
it home today. I don't know, Jocelyn.
Yeah. Well, Tim just said you ran out of time. It was it was time for the double bar. Or time to turn it in. No, I do think that you're right that that little piano motive is really full of joy, and
Yeah.
and I think that I did like the idea of ending on that this is this, and maybe it's even just me sitting at the piano feeling at home, and that like this kind of music feels really natural to me, and but yeah, I think whenever a piece of music ends in this way, it's because it's meant to keep going. Like it's not a resolution. It is the what's the word I'm looking for? The validation or whatever, that it is a journey, that it is something that has to continue beyond the piece. You make it home. It's your job to make it home. Yeah.
And at this time when we know there's, these um, increasing, loneliness and just, so many people looking to find that place of belonging, this message coming through, it feels like both invitation, something familiar and like it pulls the heartstrings and also like an imperative or like a or an empowered, like, yes, we can make it home. Like I think that that's part of it too. That just comes through so clearly. Um, wow. I don't want to pepper, too many more questions about this. And so maybe, kind of the final thought is we're just so grateful to, have you both featured on this program. And you were both featured on this program before, I'm sitting in my office and I, see this Jocelyn Hagen, a text or message pop up about and a really exciting idea for this next year. And so we're so grateful that this is going to be a continuing relationship as we bring your new composition to the Pacific Northwest this December on our holiday program called Rose Ever Blooming. And some of our audience may know it when it was released through Live from London and, on your Spotify's and all the things. It's a lovely work composed by both of you, and we are honored and overjoyed to be able to bring it to our audiences here. We'll have a revisit on that, in the future. But if there's any nugget you want to, tantalize us with about the work, we'd love to hear a word or two.
Well, I mean, logistically, I love that I think she had reached out to you right around the time that I was in Seattle for the Seattle Sings, and so we were able to talk about it like in person that day. But I was so enamored with y'all's performance in Seattle for that festival, and the programming choices and the sound from the stage and such thoughtful musicianship that like I was blown away by the fact that we were talking about doing this work with you. I was like, these folks are rock stars. This is going to be amazing. So logistically, I was like super thrilled that like that all came together in such a cool way in real time. That was neat. But yeah, the piece is it's a Christmas oratorio solely focused on Mary's perspective as a mother, as a new mother, as coming into a role that she may or may not have chosen for herself otherwise. So it's a very grounded sense of the Christmas story. It's still magical, but it also feels very, very human and very real. It's I think it's some of our strongest writing. It all just sort of came together really well, and we're proud of it. I think it's hard for artists to admit that they're proud of something they've done because it feels that it's not humble or it feels unwarranted. But we look back on this work and we're really proud of it, and we want it to live in your hearts and your audience's hearts in a neat way. And I'm just thrilled that you're all are going to take it on, and so we're really excited about this.
Yeah. Well, and I knew, after we worked together on notebooks, I was like, I got to work with Tim again. Not this Tim, that Tim.
Hey, let's do this is all three, right? It's
All
great.
Tim's.
Yeah. The feeling was so mutual. Just we are not machines as musicians. Like we thrive on relationship, and that it happened that we've known each other, Jocelyn, for years because that commission was before the pandemic as well, and it was I think one of the last performances I saw live before like shutdown was like being out there, and then Tim with you us being here in Seattle just feels like synergy, and um like-minded, passionate folks, coming together. It's going to be a lovely journey, and we aim to have one or hopefully both of you out here. We have to connect about that, but great. Yeah, we really look forward to that and know that we're just eager to grow more with you and share more with you and talk story and such. So thank you so much for being in our lives with your music and with your openness to sharing about it, and also as we look to the future. So we
It's
just,
our pleasure. It's our pleasure. Thank you for caring so much about it and
Right.
us and what we're doing. It closes the loop on what we do, right? It's a
Oh, you're
composing is a very solitary
oh my
profession.
gosh.
Um, composing is a very solitary profession, and it closes the circle when we get to work with you all and see it come to life.
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks to our lovely human beings who are joining us in real time, and we'll share this out afterwards as well. Know that you're very much with us as we journey with this music poetry this week for this place, our home, and we'll see you again soon. Thanks so much. Stay
Thank you,
warm in
Thank
those
everybody.
Minnesota
you.
winters.
Yes.
Yes.
Thanks. Have a good night,
Thank
everybody.
you. Good
Good
night.
night,
Thank you
Tim.
all.
Good night,
Okay.
Jocelyn. Thank you.
Good night,
Yeah.
Good night,
folks.
everyone.
And everybody, I think that concludes our evening. We're just super excited to have had this evening with all of you. Community is important to us. Jocelyn has something more. Yes.
Will you please? It's being recorded, right? Will you be able to send us video of this? Okay, good, because
Yeah.
I want to hear you perform it.
Oh, yeah,
Sorry we can't
absolutely.
be there, but that will be the next best
Yeah.
thing. So
Yeah,
thank you. Sorry.
absolutely. We'll have the live stream from the Sunday performance. So yeah, and we'll make sure you get that link.
Great.
So
Thank
again,
you.
everybody, yeah. So I know lots of our own members are here tonight, but also some guests. We appreciate you being here. Spread the word. This is going to be an exciting, exciting concert. Again, it's this coming Saturday night at 7:30 up at Trinity Lutheran in Linwood, and at 3 p.m. at First Church on Queen Anne. Looking forward to having all of you there and celebrating community, singing this beautiful music. So again, thanks to everyone. We will see you later. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.